the motor racing capital of the world in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we're at O'Reilly Raceway Park where we're getting ready for final practice for race number 22 of 35 in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. And we welcome you to O'Reilly Raceway Park, where it is a very busy day for the NASCAR Nationwide Series, as well as everything that's going on over at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We're getting ready for final practice for, as we said, race number 22 of the 2008 campaign on this 5/8 mile oval. Let's check in first with our pit reporters. Let's bring in Vince Welch.
Well, Marty, to get the full racing experience on Brickyard Weekend in Indianapolis, you drive a few miles west here to Clermont for O'Reilly Raceway Park, where it's a great weekend of activity. Of course, we're going to bring much of that to you here today, but it began on Thursday with the USAC Midget and Silver Crown races. And then last night, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series ran here. Johnny Benson was the winner. And today, you've got practice, qualifying, and of course, the nationwide race tonight. When you come to Indianapolis for the Brickyard and you don't come over to ORP to enjoy some of the racing activity, you're missing something. And last year, you would have missed a little bit of history, right, Jackaroo?
Oh, indeed, Vince. In fact, it was the first victory in NASCAR history for Toyota, and it was done by the car behind me, Jason Leffler, driving the Super Clips, or the Great Clips number 38. But since then, Toyota has dominated. So, Marty Reed, these Toyota drivers are undergoing a rules change when it comes to engines, and it's a whole new package this year at ORP.
Yes, the word tapered spacer has become primo in the dictionary of motorsports. Let's bring in Randy LaJoie, the only man who has won back-to-back here at ORP and sat on the pole twice. Let's talk about the tapered spacer that is meant to choke down the horsepower on these Toyotas.
Absolutely. They mandated it this year. The Nationwide Series did. This size hole, you're 800 horsepower. The only problem is this size hole, you're 650 horsepower. Well, that was too much compared to everybody else on the sheet. They needed to slow down the Toyotas. So what they did, they made this hole a little bit smaller.
Now let's talk about how small it is.
Well, 25 thousandths of an inch, about the size of a sheet of paper.
Wow. And it's gonna is it going to affect them here?
Probably not. It's going to limit their wheel spin. It might even help them here on a longer run.
All right. Well, we've got a full day, as we mentioned, as we head towards commercial break. Let's talk about what's coming up on ESPN. We've got the NASCAR Prince Cup Series practice at 2 Eastern on ESPN2. Then the IndyCars at 5 Eastern on ESPN. Drag racing at 6 Eastern, qualifying on ESPN2. We'll be back at 7:30 with the nationwide race. And, of course, everything at the Brickyard tomorrow on ESPN starting at 1 Eastern. Catch your breath. When we come back, we'll go trackside. NASCAR Nationwide Series final practice brought to you by Aleve. Good moves start here. Aleve.com. And Hanes, with panties that won't ride up. Be wedgie free. Take a look a moment ago. This was the helicopter. We're going to see a lot of this today. It looks like Clint Boyer fully suited up and David Reagan climbing off of the helicopter way up on the north side of the racetrack. They'll make their way in. And there's David Reagan's car with Augie Vidovich, who took the morning practice session and is in the car still, waiting for David to get over to trackside.
What happens is, they told him he was coming. He got in that car. He said, I'm ready. I want to go make laps because, here at Indy, ORP, this is one of the most fun racetracks that you can go to. This is a short track race that a lot of these guys grew up at doing. So anytime you get to do laps here at ORP, man, put me in, coach.
Well, he was 18th in the first practice session, Augie was. Let's check in with another one of the sub-drivers. We've got several of them. Vince Welch is caught up with Mike Skinner.
Well, Mike Skinner's in the 99 car for David Rudiman, and is pretty good. Fastest in that first practice session. Mike, what are you trying to get accomplished for David here?
I tell you, this Dream Machine's a dream to drive. John Dysinger and those guys, they've obviously, NASCAR hadn't crippled them too bad with this motor deal, but this car's really, really good, and what our goal is David and I have a lot of the same style as far as the way we drive in the corner, and we square the corner off, and So hopefully I can get the car good enough for he can come over here and win the race tonight. That's what our goal is.
He's probably going to have to do it from the back, Marty, because David Rudeman not expected to make it back in time for qualifying later this afternoon. So he'd start at the back of the field, but he's going to have a good car under him to do it.
I remember Mike Skinner the very first year the Truck Series ran here. He led every single lap of the race. Take a look at the double-duty drivers and the super subs that we have. Clint Boyer will have Stephen Light standing by. You already know about Augie. Jeremy Clements in for Kyle Busch. Jason Leffler has no standby, so it's going to be interesting to see how well last year's race winner does. Okay. And then Robert Presley and Marcus Ambrose, you saw the others. Let's check in with Jack Arute.
Well, Marty, you were talking about Jeremy Clements. You're going to finally get in this ride because Kyle was over here and got to shake it down in the first practice session. What is going to be your job now that you sit in the seat?
My job is just going to be for Jason Ratcliffe to make some changes and me give them feedback to what they're doing. I've never been here, so I got to get out there and get comfortable first, and then he's going to throw some stuff at it, and I'll let him know what it does.
You spent the first practice session listening to Jason and the back and forth between he and Kyle. What did you learn so that you feel like you're a little bit more prepared this first time out?
I talked to Kyle, and he told me how he was driving the car and what to expect and what line to do, so he taught me a lot, and I think I'm ready to go.
Fellas, one of the things work with me here, I want to show you the difference, though. You can see the difference in height in the driver. Well, one of the things that they had to do is they had to move the seat, move the steering column, and adjust the pedals. They don't have blocks on these pedals.
No, the blocks wouldn't work. Let's take you back and show you exactly what the crew was doing after the morning session. Kyle Busch was 9th fastest, but then they had to make the changes.
Well, you seen he put a bunch of padding up underneath his butt to get him up, because you want your eyes to be over that steering wheel. They moved the steering wheel back. Obviously, Jeremy's a little bit shorter arm-wise, and he brought the steering wheel a little bit closer to him. And that's one of the things, you know, I did this for Kevin Harvick a few years ago, and I says, Kevin, I says, you got to do something about your car. And he says, why is that, Randy? I said, there's no way a guy my size should be able to fit in your race car. I said, I can't fit in your driver's suit, but it's sad that I can fit in your seat. So Kevin has gone out and went to all new style seats. So that's one thing that I was glad I got the opportunity to do it, but I also woke Kevin up to say, hey, you can be safer in your seat now.
Taking a look at Joey Logano right now, and we should probably talk about, if you didn't watch the truck race last night and you don't remember what we did here last year, there are basically multiple lines that you can run on this racetrack.
That's why this racetrack is so much fun. I mean, years ago, you could sling it up next to the wall. I mean, you would come out of here with an Indy stripe on this thing in the center of the corner. You're right up against the O'Reilly Raceway Park sign. But as the years has gone, you can move down, you can run the middle, and you see guys last night kicking up dirt right on the edge of the yellow line in the grass. So that's something that is so much fun here at Indy. There's so many options for a driver to do. If the car's not working in one place, you know, take it somewhere else.
And as Joey comes in to work on the car a little bit more, let's introduce you to another new face in the NASCAR Nationwide Series, Jack Arute.
Well, he goes by the nickname of Cha-Lu, and Charlie Lewandowski is a kid that I watched grow up, as they say, from when he was this height. He raced at the Stafford Motor Speedway that my family owns, and his first job was as the correspondent for the Jack Arute's Kids Club. Now, you and I, Charlie, I know you've dreamed about racing in ORP, but it was going to be in a midget or a sprint car. How did this deal come together?
Well, it came together kind of quick. Everybody at Fitz Motorsports has always been big supporters of mine, and, you know, it was kind of a cool deal. They were looking for a driver for the 36, their second car with supercuts, and here we are. It's a dream come true for sure.
How much pressure is on you to make this show tonight?
The guys do a good job, you know, supporting what I'm trying to do, and you know, they give me all the confidence in the world, but I put so much on myself I can't describe it, so I think we'll be all right.
Guys, he moved down to North Carolina without a job to pursue this dream.
And he was 37th in the first practice session, and we'll wish him well as he's up against a lot of tough competition. Take a look at Mike Skinner right now, and Skinner, you heard, was fastest in the first practice session. Right now he's listed number 7 on the charts. His best lap at 23.5 seconds. That translates to 104 and change.
Well, you know what they're doing. I'm not sure they put tires on yet. They're probably still running on the first set of tires that they have. And, you know, Mike just is getting this car to drive very good. Mike is one of these types of drivers that go in till he sees Jesus and then he lifts. And then to get that car to turn, I mean, Jerry Baxter and that race team, they got a good replacement right here because Mike gets everything out of a race car.
Well, and explain what he meant by squaring off the corners.
Well, yeah, it got me puzzled sometimes. This is a racetrack that you can go in and diamond it. You can go in the corner straighter. You're right up against the outside wall, right in the middle, and you turn and you come down on the bottom of the racetrack. So I'm not sure about a square racetrack. He must think about the big track. This one here, you diamond it a little bit. So he had me baffled a little bit with the square track.
All right. Well, as Mike brings it in, we mentioned the fact that he led every lap the first truck race back in '95. He did the same thing in '96. And there's David Reagan getting the debrief. He'll be climbing into the cockpit soon here at O'Reilly Raceway Park.
Just west of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it's O'Reilly Raceway Park, the NASCAR Nationwide Series, practicing, qualifying, and racing, all here today in Clermont. David Reagan has just returned from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He's slipping in his car, getting ready for some practice runs. Augie Vidovich has been in his car to get it ready for Reagan. What kind of car did you leave for David here this morning?
I think it's a good car. The number 6 discount tire Ford Fusion's running well. I think it's going to be a good night for him. It's a good, stable car. It's drivable. I think David's going to like it. He's got this practice too with it, so it'll be good. I got to thank Jack and got to thank Mike Kelly and everybody that's let me do this and help them.
Yeah, for a driver like yourself, how much of an advantage for you, or much of a boost is it for you to get an opportunity to run a car for David when he's not able?
Oh, this is awesome, man. I like helping him. I like the team, and being a race driver, it's hard, but it's good, man. I like doing it for him. I like helping him.
Marty?
And he's 16th on the speed charts right now as David gets into the cockpit and gets wired up. And take a look now at the 81. I guess we had a little bit of a moment just a few laps ago. That's Randy McDonald. And yeah, I guess that's a little nudge, wouldn't you say?
Well, he didn't hit nothing, so I seen that kind of happen in the lap before. The 27 had a couple of very good runs on him. And practice, you could give some guy a little bit of room.
Brad Coleman, of course, in the 27 right now, and Coleman 19th on the speed charts. The 81 of Randy McDonald, 28th.
That's one of the things in practice. It's if I was a spotter up top, I'll be chewing the guy out. Say, hey, come on, there's nobody behind you. We're not racing. We're checking our race cars. Let's not run in the back of people, that's for sure.
Take a look at the number 1 of Mike Bliss. If I asked you who is the winningest driver in this field tonight, your answer is right there. He has won 12 times, midgets, sprints, Silver Crown, trucks. I mean, you name it, he has done very well at this track.
I asked him last night, and he didn't even know how many he had. I said, come on, Mike. I said, I want to plug you tomorrow. He said, I know you got a bunch of wins. He goes, well, I think I stopped counting after 8. I said, I think you're a dozen.
So as he rolls them on in, let's bring in Jack Arute with another update from pit lane.
You know what, Scott? Hello.
You're there. Well, I think Jack can't hear the fact that we can hear him.
There we go.
There you go, Jack. You were there.
Sometimes, when you're old, you forget things, guys. I want to tell you a little bit. You talk about old. How about Robert Presley? Marcus Ambrose has drawn 44th at the big track in his attempt to qualify for the Brickyard 400. So Presley has been put into duty here for the Match Light Special. I talked to Robert, and Randy, you can identify with this. He says, yeah, I've run a lot of races here. But he says, Jack, I haven't been here in 4 years. I said, how much has the track changed? He says, well, not much from when I left, but one of the things I found out, Randy, it's a different tire, and all these cars are searching to find the right tire patch. What does that mean?
Well, what happens, Jackie, is the cambers, the front tires on these things are so critical. They're running these coil bind situations now that the cars travel. You look at these cars down the straightaway, the front bumpers are 6 inches off the ground, and in the middle of the corner, they're right on the earth. So that the front suspension travels a lot, and your tires, the contact patch on a tire, yeah, it's a 10-inch wide tire, but man, a lot of these race cars are only using about 8 inches of it. And the guys that have tried to get this tire on the ground in the middle of the corner, that Goodyear's very busy down there getting the temperatures of these tires. The guys are messing with the cambers because it's a sweet spot like anything else, whether it's a golf club or anything else. There's a sweet spot for that front suspension. And when you hit it, man, you go through the corner a whole lot quicker than you can if you don't hit it, that's for sure.
And we were talking in the open about wheel spin and the fact that if you have too much horsepower here, you can spin the tires. But let's take a look at the speed chart right now. The top Toyota, after the new tapered spacer, right now, Mike Skinner's 11th. Now, yes, it's still early in practice. People are experimenting with a lot of things, but it is going to be interesting to see how this rules change affects the Toyotas.
Oh, absolutely right. When you have sticker tires and you've gotten a lot of grip, you need all the horsepower you can get. This track is a 5/8 mile track. You're very aggressive. You drive deep into the corners. You pick the throttles up before the center of the corner when you've got a lot of grip, and your leg is buried in this thing, and you want all the horsepower you can have. So that's something that, you know, the Toyota guys, I think they might have a little advantage later in the run. But then again, you know, there's no replacement for displacement at all. And race car drivers never have enough power. You can regulate that with your right foot. If you don't want to have enough power, you lift a little bit.
Well, as Robert Presley continues to motor around the 5/8 oval here at O'Reilly Raceway Park, let's check in once again with Vince Welch.
Taking a look at the 66 car of Stephen Wallace. They're making a spring change, and things are pretty good right now, actually. Second quick on the speed chart, but a little tight in the center and a little tight off. And this is a track, as Randy LaJoie will tell you, as the day wears on, certainly from afternoon to evening, the track will tighten up to begin with. So if you're a little tight at this time of the day, you want to free it up, and that's what they're doing with the Stephen Wallace car. It'll be his third start here at ORP. No results to show for it. He hopes to change that here tonight.
And you can see them working on the car right there. Let's take a look at what a difference 1 year can make. As we were talking about Steven, he had 0 top 5s last year, 0 top 10s, and 3 top 10s, 2 of those in the top 5. And you can see his points position 5 spots better.
Well, you know what? His average finish jumps right out at you. And that's one thing that us racers do. At the end of the year, it's all about averages. It's a numbers game. If you keep your averages low, whether it's qualifying or racing, crashing percentages, you want to keep your numbers as low as you can. Keep your averages low. Steven's done a better job this year. There's been a lot of times he's run very well and been caught up in stuff. Very similar last year. A lot of stuff last year was his own doing. Now this year here, by getting better and running with different cars, it kind of dictates that the better you get as a driver, the better your chances are for survival because you're running with a whole lot better pack of cars.
Well, and talking to Rusty, as you look at Jeremy Clements in the 18 that Kyle Busch will run tonight, biggest thing he's been working on is patience. And he has been a little bit more patient this year. Talking about Jeremy, not up to full song yet, as you can see, running at 24.6.
I was surprised to hear that this is his first time here. It's a great opportunity for him. I'm not sure if they made the best choice. It was a great choice that Kyle was here earlier and got the car to his liking. I'm not sure they're going to change a whole lot of stuff for Jeremy. They're just really doing him a favor and getting him some seat time here. The best thing he could do is jump in behind this 29 and make laps. That's something that I'm surprised they didn't tell him, is go out there, get yourself a field, jump in behind somebody. You know, follow Jason Keller. Follow a guy that's won here a couple times. Follow somebody that's been here, and it'll help you. It picks up your learning curve a lot.
All right, while this continues, former Brickyard champions Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart will look to end their current winless streaks at the sport's most famous racetrack. But red-hot Kyle Busch, winner of 7 Sprint Cup races this season, stands in the way. It's the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at the All-State 400 at the Brickyard on ESPN tomorrow. Coverage begins with NASCAR Countdown at 1 Eastern. For more, just log on to ESPN.com. Back here at O'Reilly Raceway Park, final practice for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Take a look at the top 10 practice speeds, and a couple of names up there you might not expect. Terry Cook, Johnny Chapman, they have to qualify on their speed and their time, so they have got to be cranking it up right now. But take a look at number 1 position right now. David Stremme in the 64, and you're going to get a new look here when we show you the 64 because it has got the Penske truck rental colors. And if you want to read anything into that, be my guest, of course. He is reported to be on a very short list to take over the 12 car next year in Sprint Cup for Roger Penske.
He's having such a good year in the nationwide circuit. He's probably says, hey, I can do both of these circuits next year. Put me in the 12 car, but keep me in the 64 car. They've had a good time. Rusty Wallace has a great season going with David.
And Vince, I think Roger's going to be on this with a variety of his companies for what, 4 races?
That's exactly right. Rusty Wallace saying that Roger Penske's going to be on the car in some way, shape, or form for 3 races after this one. And David Strimme, as you see him now coming down onto pit lane, having a good day today. And this is a track that's treated him well in 3 previous starts. He's been a top 10 qualifier all 3 times, has a top 10 finish. So it should be no surprise that David Strimme is fast here at ORP. Jackaroo?
Well, Vince, let's talk a little bit about Chase Miller in the number 9 Dodge. In their first practice session, they made some track jar adjustments, looking for that sweet spot for the car. What they're doing, and Randy LaJoie can address this, Marty, is they're trying to pick up from the middle of the corner out. In short track racing, the thing you want is you want to be able to drive off the corner here at ORP. Chase Miller, they've made 1 spring adjustment. They're going to change a shock. He's going to go back out. Right now, the car's a little tight coming out of the corner, but a little tight in the middle of the corner, a little loose coming out. That's during the day. When the sun goes down, that may be just the right combination, Randy.
Oh, you know, I talked to a bunch of guys after the truck race, or even before the truck race yesterday. They said, man, we can't get no grip at all. And a lot of guys are fighting loose. Well, this place tightens up. I mean, a lot of guys take tire temperatures from day to night. And what you want to do is get the right side temperatures as close as possible. That tells you the car is working really good. Well, at a track like this, when you go to daytime to nighttime, you want your right rear tire 15, 20 degrees hotter, because at nighttime, the track cools down, you get a lot of grip.
Chase Miller, of course, 6 on the charts, bumped down by that man right there. Mike Skinner has moved back on top with the Toyota. It is the only Toyota right now running in the top 18 in speeds. And obviously we're keeping track of that for you because of the new spacer change. But Skinner, who ran last night in the Truck Series, finished 10th in that race, has taken over the number 1 spot just like he did earlier today. Vince Welch.
Well, we talked a little bit about the situation facing this team. Of course, David Rudeman, the normal driver for this car, but he is 4th out in the qualifying order later this afternoon. And with the qualifying here beginning about 10 minutes after practice ends at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, they don't believe they're going to be able to get Rudeman here in time. So it's imperative that Skinner gets this car just right for David Rudeman, because he's going to be running it from the back of the field in all likelihood. And in that conversation we had with Skinner earlier, you could tell he loves it. Well, they want to make sure they keep loving it all day long, and I think so far they're pretty happy with it.
Well, and here's one stat we should probably toss out at this moment. The last 6 races here at O'Reilly Raceway Park have been won from a top 10 starting position, and 20 of the 26 prior. So if you're starting in the back, you better have a good race car.
Absolutely right. And what happens is, you can get caught up in stuff. And when you get caught up in stuff, it usually happens when you're in the back. So if you have a good car, it's a Matt Kenseth theory. It doesn't matter. You could start Matt in the parking lot, and he's still going to run really good. So if your car's good, it makes a big difference.
Cale Gale in the 33 Camping World Chevrolet. You can see he's currently 14th on the speed charts.
Now, I've talked to Fred, and that's a business manager for Kevin and Delana, and he's like, the hardest part for them is they're not giving Cale enough seat time. They're giving him 8 to 10 races, and it's so hard to get a rhythm, to get your confidence built up, because he'll go for a couple, and then they put Kevin in it for the rest. So it helps. Seat time helps. It's a great team, and it's a different deal, because Kevin is so smart running the Cup cars. He knows what he wants. He knows what feel he wants. It's all new learning for Cale, and he's doing a good job.
He continues to motor around the track here at the 5/8 mile oval. Gale in the 14th spot. His last lap was 23.9 seconds. His best lap, 23.5. And there is Rick Wren, interim crew chief on this car.
He's got many hats on. I mean, he's a championship winning truck crew chief last year. He's still on the truck deal. He run 2nd last night. So now he's just helping out. And it's neat to see, because the more you race, the more you learn. Everything, you might not learn what to do, but you sure do learn what not to do. That's for sure.
Well, if you remember, as we continue to watch Cale go around, we talked about all the guys that were doing double duty, and the fact that Jason Leffler did not have anybody running his car for him. And Jack, this may really hurt the 38 tonight.
Well, Marty, consider the fact that Jason Leffler is AWBL, absent with Brickyard lead. But as you said, he does not have a replacement driver for this final practice session. He's drawn 42nd over at the Brickyard to attempt qualifying there. So his team has started to put the car into qualifying configuration. Some of the things that you'll see in qualifying, well, you want to stop up the grill. You want to use some lighter parts. You want to get this thing ready. Will Jason Leffler make it back in time to attempt qualifications? Well, that's why he's AWBL. Stay tuned.
Well, and he did get 43 laps in the first practice and was 10th on the speed chart. So they do have a baseline to work off of. And of course, he has a lot of experience at this track. And last year, of course, was a big moment. Toyota's first win. Remember, he took the lead. He got a little bumping action there with David Ruderman. Ruderman took exception to it. But he had 50-lap fresher tires, and he went on to pull away for the win. The first for Toyota, and his victory celebration. Since the win last year for Jason Leffler, he's had 34 starts, 1 pole, 4 top 5s, but he has not revisited victory lane.
Not yet. I mean, he's going to love to come back to this place. He has so many laps here. I think that's why the 38 decided not to. He has so many laps here. He's won a bunch of races here. So he's like, okay, let me get my first practice in. If the car's good, we'll just put it on jack stands. I'll get back to qualify. I mean, he's not the biggest guy, so there's very few guys you can stick in his car and be comfortable. And because if you're not comfortable, you could the throttle could hang, something. You do something different, and you could end up wrecking the car. So I think they just says, okay, we're just gonna park this thing and then wait till Jason gets here.
And Jason, of course, led only the last 3 laps of last year's race. As remember, he gambled, took the tires, started way back at 17th, worked his way up. Will that happen tonight? We'll just have to tune in at 7:30 to find out. You saw the numbers there on Kelly Byers as he's got the Clorox Ford. Woo, wiggling a little going into one.
Well, you're going to have to wiggle. You're going to want these cars kind of free all afternoon here. Kelly's won an ASA race here, so he's no stranger to ORP, and he's doing a great job this year. He's right outside the top 10 in points, I do believe, and it's pretty darn neat that this kid from Wisconsin's doing a good job for JTG Racing.
So as Byers continues in this final practice session, it is still Mike Skinner, David Stremme, and Terry Cook. That's the top 3 on the speed charts. We're coming right back for more final practice.
The Boston Red Sox, bolstered by the return of big slugger David Ortiz, play host to their bitter rivals, the New York Yankees and Alex Rodriguez. It's another meeting in this storied rivalry. Yankees-Red Sox. It's ESPN Sunday Night Baseball at 8 Eastern.
Back at O'Reilly Raceway Park for a NASCAR Nationwide practice leading up to qualifying and the NASCAR Nationwide race tonight here at ORP, just a few miles west of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Here's a look at Dave Rogers. He's the crew chief for the 20 car being driven today by Joey Logano. Dave Rogers, I had an interesting conversation with him today. I saw Dave at the Craftsman Truck Series race last night, and my son said, hey, isn't that Dave Rogers? I told Dave, I said, Dave, it's a sign you're winning too much when the kids are spotting you in the crowd instead of the drivers. And he said, no, it's a sign you're winning too much when they're changing the rules on you. So Dave got a kick out of that, but says horsepower may not be quite as big a story here as it could be at some tracks because you spend so much time in the corners here as compared to the straightaway. And if you really need that horsepower, you need it on tracks with long straightaways, and that's not what you have here at ORP. So Randy, that might be a little bit of a difference maker for these Toyotas here tonight.
Absolutely right. We mentioned earlier, it might even help them if this thing goes green for a long ways tonight. It's definitely going to limit wheel spin. And as you've seen, that was his engineer right next to him. And when those guys do so much talking, that's one thing the Gibbs organization, the 18 here, Jason Radcliffe, you see, talking to the driver, teach them, okay, this is what you're going to feel, this is how you do it. Jason's been here probably 10 years with Nationwide cars, so he knows what these cars need.
Well, and you can see Jeremy Clement's not really up to the kind of speed that we're accustomed to seeing with somebody behind the wheel of the 18. He's currently 41st, and you were watching him.
Yes, and he's never been here. It's hard to come to a racetrack and, number one, be in a car that's capable of running in the top 5. And when you're not familiar with a racetrack, it's tough to come out here cold turkey.
So how does this help the team get this car ready for Kyle Busch?
That I don't think it does. I mean, if they make changes, he'll be able to say, okay, you know, that was better or this is worse. But, you know, going changes, you know, a second off the pace is not really a decent change.
Well, and Jack, Kyle did not have a great night last night in the Truck Series in the 51. His best finish, he got up to 8th right at the end of the race, and that's where he ended up.
Yeah, Marty, he called it probably the worst truck he's ever driven, but he did have a very good first practice session. They went through all sorts of scenarios, and they're very, very proactive as far as what they threw at the car. When Kyle Busch got out to go back to the Brickyard, he was pretty satisfied with the race car that they would have. The case that Clements is doing right now, what Clements is basically doing, Randy, and you alluded to it, he's getting seat time, and they're just making minor adjustments and saying if he can discern the difference between the other. They pretty much know what they're going to go with. They're going to bring the car back to the way Busch left it when he got on the helicopter to go back to the big track.
All right, Jack, thanks for the update on the 18. Take a look. There's Joey Logano. He is back out on the racetrack. And looking at the board, that change they just made must have done some good. He just jumped from 19th up to the number 3 spot. Logano ran a 23.43. That's 105 and change.
Yeah, you know what? And you look at the front of this car, it's not a qualifying mode. The thing is untaped, and that's something these guys, the crew chiefs, have to play with here. You see the front of the car that's not taped up as bad because the temperature is going to be 20 degrees different tonight.
All right, we're told that there is debris, so the red flag will come out. Everybody will head to pit lane. It's the first stoppage we've had in this final practice
Are we
session.
in Montreal already? Jacques Dubry?
It's Claude Daly.
Oh, okay.
And you'll be Randy Lejoie next week.
It's all good.
As I introduce you, yes. Take a look at the 60 car because Eric Darnell, who had a very good run last night, second if I remember correctly, in the truck race. Take a look, or third I should say. Take a look at what happened here.
You got 2 fast cars on the bottom, and they run out of room. It could have been serious. And that's one of the things I'm sure the crew chief's like, hey, just get out of there. You know, don't bend your right front fender in. Let's just practice. That's what we're doing. Like old Alan Alvarez said, this is practice.
Practice. All right, he's currently 18th, as you can see on the speed charts. Who's leading it? It's Mike Skinner and David Stremme as we're under a stoppage, so we'll take a break, come back with more final practice at O'Reilly Raceway Park. Back here at O'Reilly Raceway Park, we're in final practice for tonight's NASCAR Nationwide Series race. You're looking at Mike Wallace in the 7 car, Jeremy Clements in the 18, getting it ready for Kyle Busch. And this is what you were talking about before. Get behind somebody, follow him, learn for Jeremy.
Yes, he has. And he's gone 3 spots higher. You know, went from 41st to 38th. And he'll probably go higher yet because following Mike, it's teaching him how to run this racetrack. Mike's won a race here. And Mike's just trying all kinds of stuff right now. He's trying the bottom, he's trying the top. Now he's going to try pit road.
Mike won back in '94. In fact, we'll have 5 potential starters in tonight's event that have won here. Kyle Busch, Jason Keller, Jason Leffler, and 3-time winner, the only man to win it 3 times, Morgan Shepherd, along with Mike Wallace.
That's awesome.
So as Mike pulls on in, let's check in and get an update on David Reagan's situation as the 6 car is stuck in the middle, 27th, not really where he wants to be.
When you're coming from the big track over, it takes you a couple laps to say, okay, where are my points here? Because the straightaways are so long over the big track. You come here, I came from an IROC race back to here, and man, what a difference. You're like, oh, here's a corner. He's like, okay, I missed that corner. And it just takes your timing and rhythm to get better.
Remember, it was Augie Vidovich that was in the car getting it ready as David flew over after his practice session over at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
It doesn't look like their nose is getting down on the ground close enough. I mean, you look at the fast cars, and that nose is right there. He's trying to get back on the throttle. I'm coming to the pits.
And while we were in break, Scott Wimmer did a simulated qualifying run. Jack Rutten moved to the top of the speed chart.
Well, it makes sense. When you stop the car up, you're going to get a little speed, but will that be fast enough to win the pole tonight?
I don't know. That was a pretty good lap for us. I think this is about the hottest it's been all practice. So
real happy with the Holiday Inn Express, Holiday Inn Chevrolet today. Guys been working real hard, and I think we're race trim, we're real good, so that'd be a bonus if we qualify that well too.
Scott, what is the key in a real short track like this for the car to be very effective, not in qualifying but during the race?
Well, you know, you got to qualify well and get up front, but you just got to keep the car turning all race long and have a lot of grip off, and it's something we fought all day long, and we've been working on and getting it better, so we're going to give one more stab at it here, see if we can get a little more grip in the back without killing the turn, and get ready for tonight.
Well, one thing, though, Marty, what a difference a week makes, huh?
Oh, yeah. Let's take you back 1 week ago and show you what happened to Scott Wimmer at Gateway over in St. Louis. Oh, this is ugly.
Yes, it is. Thank God for that safer barrier. That helped him walk out of that thing and just be a little bit mad.
I mean, it did a 360 4 times. Here we go. Take a look. 1. You're going to get dizzy watching this. 3. Help me again. 1 more. Okay, that's enough. Take a look. You know, we can laugh about it now because he was okay, but it was ugly, ugly, ugly at the time. Of course, his one win back at Nashville, and was there for that as he broke the dry spell with the 29 car when he was at the wheel. And you can see he's got 7 top 10s, 2 of those in the top 5.
This year, they won the Owners' Championship last year in that 29 car.
That's right. They certainly did. Take a look. There's Chase Miller in the number 9 car. He is in the number 9 slot right now on the speed charts. His best lap at 23.47 seconds at 105 and change.
And that's great for Chase. It's the same thing that Cale Gale. He doesn't race enough to be consistently. He can be a very consistent top 5 race car driver, but when you only run a handful of races, it makes it so tough for driver, crew chief, communication. But Chase has done a great job every time he's in this race car.
And as he continues in the number 9 spot, trying to see who else is making a move on the charts, and might want to check on the 16 car, guys. I don't mean to produce from up here in the booth, but Colin Brown has just jumped up to the number 3 spot, and there he is.
He was practicing out here Thursday, didn't he run in the USAC Silver Crown race?
Yeah, he ran 14th in that race, and not the kind of finish that he was looking for there.
That's a good lap speed. I mean, you see his front grille is all open. The nose of that car is on the ground, so he has a good race car right now.
See the comparison between the fast lap and the next lap, or last lap, and only a 1/10 of a second difference. So if you can get it consistent, that's what it's all about. The other thing we should talk about is, we touched on a little earlier. It is going to tighten up tonight when this sun goes down. So how much do you try and think ahead and you sacrifice here?
It's tough because every race car driver wants to be on top of the sheet. And, you know, if you're just a little bit free, you're not going to be on top of that sheet. But what you have to do, there's a balance. Skinner and these guys that have gone out and did a mock-up qualifying run, you know, when you have sticker tires, you can be very aggressive. You got a lot of grip. So you can set the car up a little bit freer for the nighttime show, which you have to. But, you know, once you put the stickers on it, automatically tightens the cars up. So if they're super free when they're qualifying, boy, you know, it might not get dark quick enough for some of these guys.
Take a look now at Brian Clausen. You saw the stats there as he also ran in the midget race that was held here on Wednesday night. Came home in 14th. Jason Leffler came home in 19th in that one. And let's get more from Vince Welch.
Well, they've been working on this car. They were 25th in the first practice, and that's not nearly good enough as they had trouble getting it through the corner, but they've made some changes, just made a shock change, and I'll tell you what, they are much better in this second session than hanging around the top 10. Brian Clausen, remember, just 19 years old. So he's a driver that's cut his teeth on this track in some regards, in regards to the midget race, as you noted earlier in the week, Marty. He's very familiar with this track, but not so familiar with it in this type of car. So still a little bit of a learning experience for Brian Clausen, but he's been impressive this year. A season best 5th at Kentucky, but hasn't been in the car in the last couple of weeks. So back in shaking off a little rust and trying to get it to the front at the top of the speed chart.
Yeah, the weight difference between a midget car and a nationwide car.
Just a tick. I mean, you probably put 3 midgets in one of these cars.
He did win a midget race here last June, and as we mentioned, he did race here Wednesday night. So we'll keep our eyes on Brian Clausen as he is racing here in his home state. Take a look at Landon Castle right behind him. Landon in the number 5 car. 14th on the speed charts right now. His best lap 23.5. That's 105 and change.
They have a new crew chief on that car. Chad had resigned for personal issues, so they have a new crew chief, and you know it's going to take some time for everybody to click over there.
Reason given was personal reasons.
He ran the truck race last night.
Yep. Landon did run the truck race. In fact, he came home in 14th position in the NASCAR Craftsman truck race last evening. Take a look at Landon as he comes on into pit lane, and we'll show you what's happened for him in the last few races. As you can see, in his last 5, had a pole, 2 top 10s, and his average finish 16th and change. Stay with us.
Practice well underway here at O'Reilly Raceway Park in anticipation of tonight's Nationwide Series stop here at this speedy 5/8-mile oval just outside of Indianapolis. I'm Jack Arute down on pit road. Colin Brown just had a wonderful run, and it's kind of interesting. Sometimes it's the car, sometimes it's the driver. In this particular instance, Colin was complaining about a little tightness going into the corner, but spotters noticed one thing. Colin was using a little bit too much brake going in, so they said, roll into the brake a little bit. I believe he may be trying to simulate a qualifying run. Let me show you why I think that's the case. There's new Goodyear Eagle tires on the car. They've broken out the duct tape to try and stop up the front of this Ford Fusion. But more importantly, and one of the neat things that happens, in order to get the hot water out of the radiator, they have a cooling tower. They put in about 50 pounds of ice. They're going to cool down the radiator, and then they're going to go first time by, green flag, and 2 laps to see just where Colin Brown might qualify later, guys.
And of course, we'll keep tabs on it. Less than 25 minutes to go as you see the spotters perched high above O'Reilly Raceway Park. And in fact, they're standing right up top of us.
That's right.
We're waving to you. You can't see us, but we're in there.
And it's amazing how much you can pick up. It's so neat that to have a spotter up there that can pick that up and say, hey, you know, I'm watching cars, you know, like we said earlier, Marty, we can watch the front of these cars go into the corners. We can see where the noses drop. We can see how much brake the guys are using. And the spotter noticed that. Say, hey, you're using too much brake compared to some of these other guys. You know, just use 15, 20% less brake pressure. You can regulate that with your foot, and obviously it's helped.
David Reagan still struggling at 27th. One guy that's not struggling, take a look at the 13 of Shelby Howard. Shelby is 5th right now on the speed charts, 23.2 seconds at 106 and change, and he had a career best finish last night in the truck race. A real confidence boost for this kid.
Absolutely right. He is a great kid, and that race team needs to be commended. He's a 2-truck team to Matt Crafton, and he had a great run last night.
Came home in 5th.
Yep, and now this is his own car. This is a family car, and boy, this thing is good.
In fact, he made that run on his birthday yesterday. He turned 23. And while we're doing birthdays, let's send a salute out to Rick Crawford, also from the Truck Series. He turned 50 today. I'm sure he's real happy that I mentioned that. And we'll probably mention it again in the qualifying show.
It is what it is. I mean,
that's right.
We're not getting any younger, that's for sure.
A privilege denied many. Vince, let's get an update on Landon Castle in the 5 car.
You know, here's one of the kind of the oddities, if you will, of O'Reilly Raceway Park and some of the other tracks, smaller tracks that the NASCAR will run. They're rebuilding a right front shock for the 5 car of Landon Castle. But because the infield area is so small, the haulers have to park outside the track. So they had to go outside the track to the hauler to rebuild that right front shock and then send a runner over to meet them to pick up that right front to bring it back. So it's not like you can just walk across a few steps to the garage area and work on the car or work on a part, whatever the case may be. You actually have to go outside the track to get there. Makes things a little more difficult, challenging, if you will. And maybe, as you noted, Randy, got a first-time crew chief here as well on the 5 car, but they seem to be pretty happy with it. It's currently 15th on the charts.
Well, you know, Vince, you know that usually the shock specialists and these race day crew guys aren't the typical over-the-wall guys. So that jog from where you're standing to their truck is a little bit different. If it was just one of these over-the-wall guys that come in and change tires that, you know, work out 6 days a week just because they can, the shock specialists, you know, their tongue's hanging out probably once they get to the start-finish line.
All right, take a look at Clint Boyer as he has made the trek over from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and you can see that he's 170 ahead in the points chase over second place Brad Keselowski, and Keselowski's been chomping at his heels and cutting into that over the last 6 races, especially.
He's been whittling away at that point lead, that's for sure. You can see him going down the backstretch. Here he is. You get off the throttle, a little bit of brake pressure, and you can see him ease off the brake pedal pretty quickly. He's a little bit late getting on the throttle, especially going back to wide open.
Well, we talked about the fact Colin Brown was getting ready for a sim for qualifying. He certainly did. He just went to the #1 spot in the charts at a 22.9 second lap, 107.4 miles an hour. And Josh Wise, we can tell you, is #2 right now in the 22 car at 23.01.
Now, Josh is a name we've heard in sprint cars and midgets. He has a lot of seat time here, and he's a very talented young man.
Take a look at Brad Keselowski in the 88. Over the last 6 races, he has scored more points than anybody else in the NASCAR Nationwide Series, although he is struggling a little bit right now. 26th on the speed charts. He's got 9 consecutive top 10 finishes coming into tonight's race, and we talked a little bit about the fact that Josh is able to drive the old midgets and sprinters. There he is in the 22 car coming back out onto the track. He is second quick right now, as we mentioned, behind Colin Brown and Scott Wimmer, now third.
And he has sticker tires on this thing, and this thing's taped up, so this is his. We'll see how he does going in, possibly going to the top of the board here.
Got less than 20 minutes left in this final practice session here at O'Reilly Raceway Park.
When we're talking about the 88 car, you know, his average finishes have been just a lot better than Clint's, and that's what makes you know, Paul Wolf right there, driver turned crew chief. He has turned a lot of racetracks around, race teams around. The kid is a very sharp kid. He was a decent race car driver, but he's found a niche in his crew chief position.
Comes by the stripe the first time, 23.2 seconds, not close to his 23.01 that put him second on the speed charts, but here we go with another lap. Let's watch his line, and everybody seems to be drifting a little bit to the higher line.
Absolutely. With sticker tires, you got to get as much momentum as you can. This looks like a little bit straighter of a line here that he's run. It might be a little bit better. Well, until then.
He twitched it at the end, and 23.11. He missed it by a 10th. That was just enough.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Anytime you get a wiggle, it doesn't help your speed. That's for sure.
So he's going to abandon a third lap and just bring
close.
it back in. Yeah, it's close.
Okay. I mean, that's, you know, they can fix that wiggle with air pressure.
So as he brings it on in, only 2 cars have not practiced. Of course, Jason Leffler, we documented for you earlier in the 38 car. He is over at the big track. They'll wait and come back just for qualifying. And then the 49 of Curtis Davis, and they have to qualify on speed. So I don't know what's going on there. Maybe we'll check in on that and see if we can get an update on Curtis. Jack, let's talk a little bit more about the 13 car.
Well, fellas, you were talking about that good practice run just moments ago by Shelby Howard. Well, and we're getting down to where everybody's going to try this. They all want to do at least one sim run. That's the case for Shelby right now. They've made some minor adjustments, taped the car up. So when he goes back out, guys, the key is to check what the clock says. And then, as you alluded to, if there are minor changes to be made in qualifying trim, you do it with tape and air pressure.
All right, thanks, Jack. Eric Darnell still continues out on the track. He is subbing for Carl Edwards. Yeah, that's okay. I had a brain fade for a moment. I was looking to find out where he was on the speed charts. He's 22nd, so they've still got a little work to do.
Well, I think if they put some tires on, it's going to jump them right up there.
Speaking of work to do, we've got a lot coming up this weekend for you. Coming up next on ESPN2, it'll be Sprint Cup Series practice. Then at 5 Eastern on ESPN, it's the Indy cars. Tonight at 6, we got drag racing qualifying on ESPN2. At 7:30 on ESPN, we'll be here for the Nationwide Series race. And then tomorrow, NASCAR Now at 10 a.m. on ESPN2. And then everything at the All-State 400 starts at 1 on ESPN. Whew, that's a lot. Oh, clouds looking a little ominous, but so far we've stayed dry, and they said we were going to stay dry. Take a look. The drag strip was designed back in 1960, and then it was supposed to be a 2.5-mile road course, which is still here. It was completed in 60 also. The first oval race, run on dirt. The winner, A.J. Foyt in 1961. And of course, it was renamed from Indianapolis Raceway Park to O'Reilly Raceway Park in 2006. There are the spotters and a couple of our camera positions high atop the scoring stand and the suites that they have here at O'Reilly Raceway Park. And the drag strip is off to the left there. And that'll be the big race Labor Day weekend. Of course, you'll see that on ESPN2. Right now, we're getting a look at the 13 car, Shelby Howard. He is now in the 6th position. His best lap at 23.28 at 106 and change. Mike Bliss, we can tell you during the commercial break, did a qualifying sim and moved into the number 3 spot ahead of Scott Wimmer and behind Josh Wise and number 1, Colin Brown.
That's right. All these guys are saying, okay, come on, put some tires on me. Cool this thing off. I want to go. That's what you do when you got a decent car. Put some tires on me. I want to see where I stack up. And, you know, that's we're going to have to redo this here this afternoon to qualify. But it gives the drivers a whole lot more know what to do right before they go to qualify.
And as we go from Shelby Howard, who had his best career start here last year at 11th, we pick up with Landon Castle, who is just bringing it back into pit lane, and he is in the 18th spot right now at 23.5 seconds. Let's check in once again with Mike Wallace in the 7 car. When we last saw him, he was well down the list in the 30s, and right now he has moved up to the number 9 spot with his qualifying simulation at 23.4 at 105 and change. And he's going to bring it in.
You know, he's going to come in and say, okay, guys, we just run a 40. We need to run a flat. So what do we need to do to get ourselves in position to run a little quicker?
And our first look of the day at James Busher as he's in the 32.
Out of Texas. And this car has run very well. This is a second Braun racing car. Whether Denny Hamlin's been in this car, Kyle Busch has been in this car, they've been right behind their teammates, whether it's the 18 or the 20. So this 32 car is a good race car.
Well, you can see he was the youngest winner in ARCA Series history and has run a couple of other Nationwide Series races. In fact, I think last week at Gateway, he may have had his best run of the season, best ever, perhaps. We're checking on it. We'll let you know.
It's all seat time. You know, the more seat time you get, the better these kids are going to be.
And don't have to worry about where this guy is as far as the points. He's sitting on top of it. Clint Boyer, as he takes the number 2 Camping World Chevy out. Let's get more from Vince Welch.
Well, you see the 2-car, Clint Boyer, Dan Deeringhoff, the crew chief, and the rest of the guys just got this one all set up for a qualifying sim. Put some fresh rubber on it, taped it up. Clint has been talking about needing to get through the corner, roll through the corner a little better. And the last adjustment they made got him through the corner a little better, but made the car really loose off. So that's what they worked on chassis-wise during this preparation, if you will, for this qualifying sim. We'll see what kind of number he puts up on the board here.
All right, thanks, Vince. As he continues, and yes, we did verify Busher did finish 7th last week at Gateway, so we had our numbers straight and a good run for James last week. Right now, the number 2 car still out there trying to move it up the charts. 16th is where he's at right now. His last lap was his best lap, 23.46 seconds at 105 and change. Going for one more, Randy. What do you see?
Well, he's a little late to the throttle, and you know you have to pick the throttle up a little bit quicker all the way down. I'm not sure he's going to go up that high.
He was actually slower, 23.5 by a 10th.
And you can see, I mean, he's all done. He's okay. I'm not sure I like that.
Yeah, and he's got Stephen Light on standby duty if he can't make it back to qualifying later today, which of course you'll see. As there is the last lap and the fast lap And as we said, he is 16th. This session is quickly winding down. We've got about 10 minutes unofficially left before the final practice will come to a close. Josh Wise has gone back out on the 22 car. He is currently second quick as Clint Boyer continues to make his way down the long pit lane here at O'Reilly Raceway Park. Now makes the turn. The crew will go to work.
You know, Josh Wise's car was run beginning of the year. This car was driven by Mike Bliss, and he was 5th in points. And Mike chose to leave that team and go to James Finch's team. So, you know, this team at the beginning of the year was as good as anybody out there. And now he's right back at it, and he's doing very good. And then Paul Wolf is back. Paul Wolf had left the team when Mike Bliss did, but Paul Wolf has came back with Josh Wise, who's a Michael Waltrip development driver.
And as we mentioned, Josh, 23.3 seconds. His best at 23.01. Let's get more from Vince Welch.
Well, and his run had started to fall off before coming in and putting on some fresh rubber, and they talked about the fact that the tires had gone away from him. He had no grip whatsoever, so he thought that putting on fresh rubber would pick up their speed by 2 to 3 tenths from what they had been running previously. Of course, he put a pretty impressive number up on the board early on, as you guys had noted. That's got him in the top 5 on the speed chart. But certainly happy with this race car, and when they get the right grip, they feel like they're pretty solid here today.
All right, thanks for the update, Vince, from down in pit lane. The sun is out over here. We hear reports that there's scattered showers over at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway affecting qualifying. So take a look at Josh's numbers there. And we again check in with David Stremme, who is 5th on the speed charts right now. His best lap, 23.14 seconds, 106.6 miles an hour.
That's what he just did. He was a mock-up running. He went from about 12th up to 5th. It's a good-looking car.
You don't miss that bright yellow paint scheme. As we mentioned, Roger Penske will be sponsoring this car for this race, plus 3 others with a variety of his companies. And
you know Roger's going to be looking at David with very big eyes as to see, okay, who am I going to put in my 12 car to replace Ryan Newman?
And that's exactly why he told Rusty, he says, I want to keep this guy in the seat. I want to see what he can do. He knows the pressure is on. David does. If he performs well, he has a very good shot at getting that 12 ride. And if he steps all over it, maybe not.
Steps all over it.
It.
Okay.
Yes. I was very clear on that. All right, so Stremme is in. Let's see who's still out there. Kelly Byers has moved into the number 9 spot, and he is still out on the track in the 47. And here comes Kelly as his best lap, 23.29 seconds at 106. And let's check in on Landon Castle as he is going for a qualifying sim and on sticker tires. So analyze what he's doing here, Coach.
He's whistled it down into 1 and 2. He's coming off on the bottom. You aim towards the international sign. You go into 3. You try to get a great run into 3. You're off the brake. You want to get off the brake, roll the center. You're back in the gas right here. Hopefully you're aiming for the start-finish line here. And he's a little bit free. But, man, it doesn't look like a bad lap.
Well, it was pretty good. Moved him from 23rd to 7th. And he's on the second one. He's up to 23.22 seconds.
And usually the second lap, you don't never know what you have the first lap. So a lot of times guys are just a little bit cautious. A lot of guys aren't. And I've always been a guy that my second lap was always better than my first lap. He chased it a little bit. He got a little bit of wiggly.
Well, let's see what happens. He actually goes just a touch quicker. Still keeps him in the 7th spot, 23.19 seconds, 106.4 miles an hour.
And you know what's amazing is a 1/10 of a second. There's 10 cars within a 1/10 of a second.
A lot of good talent here in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. A good competitive balance. And we're going to check in again with the Toyota situation throughout the day, and qualifying coming up later today here at O'Reilly Raceway Park. Right now, it's a Ford on top with Colin Brown. Former Brickyard champions Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart look to end their current winless streaks at the sport's most famous racetrack. But Red Hot Kyle Busch, winner of 7 Sprint Cup races this season, is going to try and stand in their way. It's the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series All-State 400 at the Brickyard on ESPN. Tomorrow, coverage begins with NASCAR Countdown at 1 Eastern. Back here at O'Reilly Raceway Park, we haven't talked a lot about him in the last half hour, but guess what? Joey Logano in his qualifying sim just moved to the number 2 spot, 23.01 seconds.
And that's something that race team is just phenomenal this year. Doesn't matter who drives that car. We heard earlier, a couple races ago, guys say, monkeys can drive that race car, but they have some very talented monkeys, and Joey Logano is as good as they're going to be right now. His age, it's hard to say. When I look at Logano, I think of Tim Richmond. He came into this sport on fire, on gas, winning races, and Joey's done the same thing. He's done a very good job, and his race team, that race team, he's plugged right in, and when they change drivers as much as they do, you have to get along with people.
Let's get an update on the 20 from Vince Welch.
I was talking with crew chief Dave Rogers about Joey Logano, and Rogers said really the only weakness for Logano right now is lack of seat time, especially at a track like this where Logano hasn't run since he was in an ASA car at the age of 14. So it's pretty impressive that he's adapted as quickly as he has. One big help for him has been the presence of Mike McLaughlin, a well-known racer, builds the show cars for the Gibbs team, does some testing for Tony Stewart and Gibbs as well. McLaughlin kind of serving as a driver coach for Logano, helping him with his line around certain tracks, and it's been an important presence for this team in helping Joey Logano make the transition to the Nationwide.
Well, and you heard Randy's reference to any monkey that Clint Boyer said could drive this car. Let's go back 1 week ago and see how Joey did at Gateway International, and there was the monkey.
He's doing a good job, isn't he? How can he reach the pedals and the steering wheel all at the same time?
Oh gosh, and there he was finishing second in that race. Had another good run. Of course, he won at Kentucky, becoming the youngest winner in Nationwide history. And you can see how many races before their first win. And 7 for Carl, Dale Jr. 16 this season, Kyle, Joey 3, Brad 49, and both those wins for those two came this year.
It took me 71, but I did it over about 5 years. I dabbled in it before I got a full-time ride.
Yeah, but then you went on to win 2 championships, so you made up for it.
That's right.
And take a look at his driver coach up there.
Magic Shoes, he's got to be standing on the box. He's kind of short.
Oh, now he's going to be coming after you.
Oh, it won't be the first time. Mike's a great guy. Here he is. He's like I say, does a lot of show cars. He's been very influential with Joe Gibbs' development stuff. He takes these guys practicing. He's been around. He's a young 50. So he gets in these cars. He shakes them down for the guys. And he's been very good for that race team. Mike had told me years ago, when I said, Mike, I said, do you ever get in fights, short tracks, big tracks? He says, well, you know what? He says, when you put that window net up, we're all the same size.
That's
true.
I've
never thought of that.
That is true. Let's check in with Jack Arute again. What's the latest going on down there, Jack?
Well, first of all, you talk about Magic Shoes. One of the reasons why he was enlisted by Joe Gibbs Racing is Tony Stewart's crew chief, Greg Zippadelli. The Zippadelli family, the Sherwood Tool cars, modified racing. That's what launched Magic Shoes McLaughlin into his modified and NASCAR career. But you talk about monkeys. There was a time, Randy and Marty, when you didn't have stuffed monkeys in race cars, you actually had a live monkey in a race car. The late Tim Flock used to race with a monkey caged in where the passenger seat should be. The name of the monkey? Jocko Flocko.
Jocko went for a few rides, I guess.
You ain't kidding. I guess there's some organization probably won't let you do that no more.
Yeah, I don't think that would pass the inspection. All right, so there is the red flag. As that's going to slow everything down for a bit, and looks like the session is officially come to a close here at O'Reilly Raceway Park. As you see, the top 10 in speeds led by the 16 of Colin Brown, followed by Joey Logano. Stay with us. NASCAR Nationwide Final Practice brought to you by Orbitz. Visit Orbitz.com today and save. Well, final practice is over here at O'Reilly Raceway Park. We'll get ready for qualifying. You'll see that later today. Take a look at the top 10 on the speed charts after all the qualifying sims have been completed, and it is Colin Brown in front of Joey Logano, Josh Wise, Cale Gale, some names that we would not have expected perhaps. But remember, this race is run in the evening. Sometimes teams sacrifice a little early to get it better a little later. Let's check in with Jack Arute, who's with the man who was at the top of the speed charts.
Yeah, P1 for Colin Brown, and I got to ask you, is that what you expected when you got here at ORP?
Well, you know, this car's always been faster. Greg Biffle normally drives this number 16 City Financial Ford Fusion car, and he's always fast in it, so, you know, I guess everybody was waiting to see if I could drive it fast like he could or not. And
what were your impressions?
It was really good. You know, this car drives great. My crew chief, Eddie Pardue, did a really good job getting this Ford Fusion tuned up, and you know, it was fast right off the truck. We rolled off and we were right up in the top 5 or 6 there right the first run, and then we made the second run, we're P1 there. So we were happy with that, and certainly pretty fast, and hopefully it'll be good tonight.
Now, it's important for you to qualify well because you also have to make your way in, but also picking pit stalls.
Well, we were just sitting here talking about that, and it's going to be a tough challenge here. It's always a guessing game of who's got a starting program going or what's exactly going to happen with all the pit stalls. And everybody else is locked in, so we kind of got to pick through the, I guess, throwaway pits and pick our best one here.
Vince, you and I are getting old, or these guys are getting a lot younger or something. The young guns are on top at ORP.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it? The talent at such a young age. Of course, Joey Logano already making major headlines this season with a win in a couple of seconds. We noted earlier in the telecast you ran here as a 14-year-old back in ASA, but haven't been here since. What do you remember from that event?
Not much. And, you know, when I was 14, I was here last time. So it was cool to get back out here at ORP now. And, you know, our car is okay. Games on Toyota, it's okay. We never really got it right where we wanted to, but I don't think you're going to be able to get it right where you want it to here. So we'll have to see. I'm not the biggest fan of this racetrack. So
why not?
It's just a hard place to pass in the race. So it makes it exciting for the fans, though. So that's cool. And you know, it's just tough to dial your car in just right. So it makes it a challenge. We're all racing on the same racetrack anyway. So we'll just have to see how we qualify here.
Did you notice any difference from a horsepower perspective since the tapered spacer was added?
Yeah, it makes a little bit of a difference. You know, at a smaller racetrack, not as much as until we get into a bigger racetrack. So we'll just have to make the best of it and see if we can get a win with it, and then we'll show them.
With such impressive results earlier, a win, 2 seconds as noted, another top 10. What are your expectations each time you get in the car?
My expectation is to win every time I get in a race car, and that's, you know, with anything I get into, and especially with this 20 GameStop Toyota, you know, this whole team is awesome. So you got to expect to win it every time you go to a racetrack. So you know, nothing's changed there. Nice
to have that kind of confidence and nice to have that kind of ability and a team behind you to make it a possibility, Marty.
It is going to be fun to watch in qualifying, and that'll be at 4:30. There's another one of our young guns, Landon Castle, now 19 years of age. He had a birthday a couple weeks ago. Get to be an old man. Take a look at our weekend calendar because we've got Sprint Cup practice coming up today at 2 Eastern on ESPN2. Then we've got our qualifying back here at 4:30 Eastern. And then, of course, the Nationwide Series tonight at ORP, 7:30 Eastern. NASCAR now tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And All-State 400 coverage at the Brickyard begins at 1 Eastern tomorrow on ESPN. Final thoughts before we get out of here and get ready for qualifying?
We've seen in practice, we've seen guys bumping each other already. This is going to be a race tonight that, you know, the high line's going to be used, the low line's going to be used. I was a little surprised that Joey says, you know, he was 14, he probably didn't know how to pass. But he's not going to have to worry about that tonight. Looks like he's going to qualify well, and they're coming to the front.
Based on what you saw, who do you pick to take the pole at 4:30? Wow.
Yeah, how you can bet against that 16 car? That thing's fast.
Colin Brown. It would be his second pole. Remember, he got one earlier this year at Mexico in only his third start. This will be only his sixth. There is the 16 car, and we mentioned the fact that Greg Biffle has run that car extremely well here last year. So that's going to wrap it up for us here at O'Reilly Raceway Park. We have a full weekend of NASCAR events on ESPN and ESPN2, and we'll be back at 4:30 this afternoon with NASCAR Nationwide Series qualifying. Now, coming up next, it is NASCAR Prince Sprint Cup Series practice from the Brickyard. For Randy LaJoy, Dave Burns, Jack Arute, Vince Welch, I'm Marty Reed. We'll see you at 4:30 here at O'Reilly Raceway.